Welcome to lesson 8. We're going to talk about word problems some more. So we've been working on word problems for a while because it's obviously a really important part. Example 1. We're going to apply algebraic modeling to a payroll problem. Mr. Skivington operates a variety store with his two sons, Jerry and Coco. Jerry makes twice as much as Coco. That hardly seems fair, but Coco only works part-time. Mr. Skivington makes $220 per week more than Jerry. The total weekly payroll is $1,450. So payroll, that word in this case means how much the owner, or in this case operator, Mr. Skivington, has to pay out to his employees. So that's the amount of money that he has. How much does each family member earn per week? Here's our solution. We're going to use algebra to model and solve the problem. We want to write an expression that describes each person's earnings, right? Because the question says, how much does each family member earn per week? We need to define our variable. We're going to let K represent Coco's earnings. Now, how do we decide on, why didn't I say let J be Jerry's earnings? Because when I look at this information, every sentence, well, this one here, we've got Jerry makes twice as much as Coco. So I'm going to be able to write this sentence in terms of K. And I'll show you the next slide here. Here's one way to write it out. So here's Coco. If you use tables, some students really like charting everything out in a table. So here we've got the worker. Coco is K, and we don't know how much Coco makes. Jerry makes twice as much as Coco, so Jerry's 2K. Now, Mr. Skivington makes 200 more than Jerry. So this was Jerry. Jerry was 2K, right? So Mr. Skivington is 200 more than Jerry. So 200 more than 2K. So I don't want to put a J in here for Jerry because then I'm going to have too many variables to deal with. I'd like to stick with one variable. And we know the total is 1,450. So this table or chart is not necessary. You don't have to set questions up like this. We're going to write an equation that puts all of this stuff together. So think of what we just saw in the chart. We've got Coco's earnings, that's K, Jerry's earnings, that was the 2K, and Mr. Skivington's earnings, that was 2K plus 200, and that all has to equal 1,450. So some of you would just want to do an equation like this. You wouldn't want to do a chart and organize things that way, and that's fine. So here's our equation, a little more concise. And what have we got here that we can work with? We've got some like terms. A K, two more Ks, two more Ks. How many Ks have we got? We've got 5K plus 200 equals 1,450. So how do we isolate K? So now that we've got this part, this was the hard part. Once we have the equation, we're all getting really good at isolating for K. So hopefully everybody knows the next step is to subtract 200. The reason we subtract 200 is to bring this 200 over to this side. We're moving it over. And you could write the 200 alongside here if you wanted to. You don't have to write it underneath as I have. We have to subtract 200 from both sides to keep it balanced. That leaves us with 5K equals 1,250. Now what? How do we isolate K from this? So to isolate K here, we're going to have to divide both sides by 5. Let me put that in there. Divide by 5. Divide by 5. That gives us K equals 250. So what does that mean? What does that number mean that we just found? It's important that you can explain that in English, right? What does that mean? Remember what our question was. It was how much does each family member earn per week? So the solution, K equals 250, what does it mean? It means that Coco earns $250 per week because that's what K was right up here, Coco's earnings. We substitute that into the other expressions to find out how much Jerry and Mr. Skivington earn. So let's start with Jerry. Jerry was 2K. We put the 250 in for K and we get 500. So Jerry earns 500 per week. What about Mr. Skivington? Mr. Skivington, we're going to substitute in for this K. We're going to substitute in 250. And we do all that work and we get Mr. Skivington earns $700 per week. So I can check to see if these answers add up to give me the correct total. So these numbers that I got should add up to, remember, it should add up to 1,450, and they do. So the 3 wages do add up to the correct total. So that was example 1. Example 2. Again, this time we're doing an earnings problem. It's a little different. We've got Uma. She works at a ballpark selling peanuts. She's paid $6 per hour. That is not much, but she gets a 50-cent commission for every bag of peanuts she sells. So commission means you get a part of the earnings. So every bag of peanuts, I don't know how much she charges for a bag of peanuts. Say when you go to, if you've ever been to a sports game or any kind of concert, everything is really expensive. So she probably it's probably like $4 for a bag of peanuts. So she gets 50 cents. That's her commission. That's the piece of that money she gets. She gets 50 cents of that $4 for every bag of peanuts she sells, and that encourages her to sell more. That's what commission is. If you've ever walked into a store or with your parents especially, probably more so than you guys, but if you go into a store like, say, Best Buy, and right away a salesperson comes up to you, or a furniture store, can I help you with something? They're probably making commission because they're very motivated to sell, because they get a piece of everything that's sold. So that's what commission is. So if that's not a word that you knew before, you should maybe write down a definition for it or look it up, because that will come up often, and that's basically what it is. It's just an extra piece of money you can make if you sell something. Car salesmen make a lot of money on commission. Okay, so I've explained the sentence. First of all, you have to understand the question before you can even move on. So we need to find Uma's earnings if she sells 42 bags of peanuts during a 4-hour shift. So you can't just say, oh, 42 bags of peanuts, she gets 50 cents per bag. That's what no, because she also gets $6 per hour. So she's got a 4-hour shift, she's making $6 per hour, and plus she's getting her commission. So there's 2 pieces to this. So we're going to figure that out, and then how many bags of peanuts must she sell to earn $100 in 7 hours? So that's a different type of question. So let's look at A first. Uma is paid in 2 ways. She gets paid for the length of time she works, so that's her $6 an hour, and she gets paid for the number of bags of peanuts she sells. That's her commission, her 50 cents commission. We need to write an expression for each, and then we're going to write a formula that models it. Now you can use the chart method that I showed you before to kind of organize your thoughts, or you can go right to the equation if you think you're ready for that. But I'm not going to show you the answer. Your task is to complete this example yourself. The full solution is found on page 223. So I want you to try it, and then I want you to go to your textbook. The example 1 that I did, that question about Coco and Jerry and Mr. Skivington making money, I took that right out of your textbook. All I did was copy and paste it and then just animated, just let you see one piece at a time. But all I'm doing here today in today's lesson is showing you how to use your textbook properly to teach yourself. So as you go on more and more in math, you have to learn more on your own. Your teacher's not going to feed you everything you need, and you're learning that now too. You're learning that you have to sometimes do extra work because you don't pick it up with the video I teach you, so you have to do some more. So that's how you go through example 1. That was how you go through exactly what you see in the textbook. You just take it one step at a time. You don't just flip through the pages and go, okay, I got it, there's the answer. So that's what I want you to try to do here. So my video's over here, really. What you're going to do is you're going to answer A and B, try to do it if you can, and then you're going to go to page 223 and see if you got it right. And especially if you didn't get it right, I want you to go through the solution step by step to figure out where you went wrong. So that's a short lesson today because I want you to do some independent learning there and try it out. Try this kind of question yourself.